Once again, according to many different stories and sources, it seems like the impeachment inquiry is bad news for Democrats. Today marks the first day of public hearings in the impeachment inquiry against President Donald Trump, and I gotta say, to me, it seems like Democrats, in complete desperation, are willing to tear apart the fabric of this country if it means slightly increasing their chance to win in 2020. Because let's be real, even if Trump is impeached, the Senate likely will not convict him. So what's the point? And if he is impeached, then Republicans who control the Senate may be able to call their own witnesses and make the Democrats look really, really bad. It could actually be really bad for the Democrats. And now we have new internal polling data from the RNC that says even among Democrats, support for impeachment is down. Now, this is a biased source and polls are usually trash. But the point is, we have many factors showing us that either the impeachment inquiry is all based upon hearsay and secondhand information, or that it's not going anywhere anyway. So what's the point? Well, at least according to some sources, my opinion as well, is that the Democrats want to get as much negative press as possible about the president so that people simply vote against him come 2020. They don't care that he was elected. They don't care that many of these people testifying are people who think their opinion supersedes the president and they should be allowed to disrupt the president's foreign policy. We did not elect these individuals. I didn't elect Donald Trump, but I recognize the people of this country did. And for better or for worse, you let him do his job. And if you don't like it, you vote for somebody else. But now the bigger point, which shows that the Democrats do not care. I'm not saying every single Democrat, but enough of them, the leadership. They don't care about what this is doing to our country. According to a Politico story, they bring up a very great point. If the impeachment goes to trial in the Senate, that means many of the 2020 presidential candidates on the Democrat side will be pulled from the campaign trail. They will become jurors in an impeachment trial where they will not be allowed to directly ask questions and must remain silent. That means the Democrats are not even going to be able to campaign. So what? I want to hear policy ideas, but the impeachment is going to shut that down? Why? What's the long-term plan? The plan is simply, orange man is bad, vote for literally anyone else. I won't do that. I will vote on principle. To me, this is a last-ditch desperation Hail Mary where the Democrats are showing they don't care about policy. They don't have a plan. And they know that people don't like their candidates. So they need to make sure you hate the president. Well, I'll tell you what. I've never been a big fan of the guy. I think he's done a lot of things wrong. I can talk about the commando raids in Yemen, Saudi Arabia, all that foreign policy stuff that I normally rag about. And I've repeatedly said I think he has bad character, which makes him he doesn't generate confidence among the American people. I think you can see the divisiveness. But I'll tell you this. I'm also a mature adult who recognizes I don't always get what I want. And for better or for worse, the president who is elected should serve their term and not be disrupted by unelected officials or individuals in the intelligence community who think their opinions supersede the president. But that's what we're getting now. We're getting secondhand, thirdhand testimony from people who think their opinion on what foreign policy should be is better than that of the president. No, I tell you what, the president will serve out his term or terms, and then you vote for someone else. If he does a bad job, people won't vote for him. But you know what? The analytics, Moody's, the economy, it shows that people do like the job Trump is doing. So why is all of this happening? Why can't the Democrats just campaign on the campaign trail and talk about policy positions? Well, it's because the positions they offer up are unpopular. So now they are literally pulling the Democrats, potentially, if they go to Senate, they will be pulling the Democrats off the campaign trail. To me, that's insane. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do is I want to start with this opinion piece, which is a bit hyperbolic, but I think it's kind of interesting and I agree with a lot of it. But I will mention it is a worrisome thought piece on what's currently happening with impeachment. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. But of course, the best thing you can do, share this video. I'm going up against all of these big media players, and you're going to be barraged by all of this partisan anti-Trump negative press. They're going to twist and spin. And I'll admit, look, they're entitled to their opinions, and so am I. So I'll put it this way. I encourage you to watch all of that news and make sure you're getting a full picture because there are things I can't see. But because they're going to dominate the press and I can't, if you think I'm right, if you agree with me on my opinions and my thoughts on this, then sharing this is the best way to help. But let's read this story. And I'll try to go through it quickly because there are 10 points. The first point brought up in this New York Post op-ed is that the impeachment inquiry is just the latest attempt in a list of all of these different attempts to damage the president. from the Mueller debate, from Logan Act, Emoluments Clause, 25th Amendment, McCabe, Rosenstein, Stormy Daniels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They just keep doing this. When was the last time one of these major news outlets did some on-the-ground reporting? I know Fox News was in Israel recently, but based on the Veritas leaks, we learned that CNN is foregoing policy talk to just do panel after panel about Donald Trump. That's what they're doing. Where's the on-the-ground reports about Hong Kong and Chile and all these other places? Now, I know many outlets are still doing it, but impeachment has become lucrative for the press. And this is just the next phase. The next point he brings up is the false whistleblowers. He says the whistleblower is no whistleblower by any common definition of the noun. He has no incriminating documents, no information at all. He doesn't even have first-hand evidence of wrongdoing. Instead, the whistleblower relied on second-hand water cooler gossip about a leaked presidential call. Even his mangled version of the call didn't match that of official transcribers. He wasn't disinterested, but had a long history of partisanship. Now I'll stop. And I'll say, legally speaking, this person is a whistleblower. They heard rumors of wrongdoing, and they brought it up. But then Trump released the transcript, and we could see that his version of events were incorrect. What we're left with now, the testimony from today is that, in one instance, I believe it was maybe Bill Taylor saying that my staffer overheard a phone call with Sondland, and then Sondland said the president cares more about this investigation than anything else. So we have the testimony of a man who heard from a staffer, who heard from another staffer that his opinion on the president is thus. Is that grounds for impeachment? No, but this is one of the big bombshells coming out today. I'm sorry, I just don't see this. If you don't like the president's foreign policy, you can be quiet and follow through with what he asks, or you can leave and complain about it. Instead, they're trying to impeach him about a year out from an election when he could be voted out anyway if he's done something wrong. Well, that's the point. They want all of this on TV. And I gotta say, thinking about it, I question whether they would actually end up impeaching him. Maybe they won't. They just want the bad press. But let's read more. They say this is a first-term impeachment. The Clinton and Nixon inquiries were directed at second-term presidencies when there were no more electoral remedies for alleged wrongdoing. By contrast, Trump is up for election in less than a year. Impeachment then seems a partisan exercise in either circumventing a referendum election or in damaging a president seeking re-election. I completely agree. No special counsel finding. Right, we get it. 22 months, $35 million, and Robert Mueller found nothing. But here we are, Russiagate 2 Ukrainian Boogaloo, where I kid you not, they are still saying on MSNBC that Trump is a Russian asset. This is all about the Russians, and Trump is just working for Russia, and he's trying to frame the Ukraine. It is absurdity. He brings up no bipartisanship. In fact, there is bipartisanship in the other direction. 2 Democrats defected and voted against impeachment. Or the inquiry, I'm sorry. No high crimes or misdemeanors. There is no proof of any actual crime. Asking a foreign head of state to look into past corruption is pro forma. That Joe Biden is now Trump's potential rival doesn't exculpate possible wrongdoing in his past as vice president when his son used the Biden name for lucrative gain. And more importantly, in the testimony so far, I believe it may have been Taylor, they asked him about CrowdStrike. They said, do you know anything about this? And he said, no, I just read about it in the paper last month. And they said, is the story true? And he says, no. He basically said no. But you don't even know about what CrowdStrike is, but you're sure it's false? They're acting now like the documents released by John Solomon are fake. He's a conspiracy theorist. This is a guy, my understanding, John Solomon, who's done a lot of the reporting on Ukraine. He worked at the AP for a couple decades. But now he's no longer a journalist. Now he's a right-wing commentator and conspiracy theorist. That's the game they're playing. Number 7 says thought crimes. Even if there were a quid, there is no quo. Unlike the case of the Obama administration, the Trump administration did not supply arms to Ukraine, and the Ukrainians apparently did not reinvestigate the Bidens. They mentioned double standards, the Schiff factor. Schiff is now de facto chief impeachment prosecutor. He has repeatedly lied about the certainty of impending Mueller indictments or bombshells. He flat out lied that he and his staff had no prior contact with the whistleblower. He made up a version of the Trump call that didn't represent the transcript, and when called out, he begged off by claiming he was offering a parody. Right. Now here's the scariest part and why I wanted to read this. Precedent. The indiscriminate efforts to remove Trump over the past 3 years, when coupled with the latest impeachment gambit, have now set a precedent in which the out party can use impeachment as a tool to embarrass, threaten, or seek to remove a sitting president and reverse an election. We are witnessing constitutional government dissipating before our eyes. I have to agree. Because here's what I see. I see a group of people that just want negative press, that are willing to use the system, use the process, and use the Constitution to implement a phony kangaroo court because they want negative press about Trump. I'm sorry. Russiagate didn't work. Stormy, none of this worked. Trump's approval rating is higher today than it was 2 years ago. Moody's Analytics predicts a Trump victory, and the Democrats know this is their Hail Mary. They are tearing apart the fabric of our country in a desperate bid. Here's the story from the Daily Mail. Democrats plan to dominate media coverage and drown Trump in bad news with 8 witnesses next week in jam-packed impeachment hearings as White House officials hope full court press is just another storm. That's the game they're playing. Just generate bad press. And I think I've been right the whole time. You know, I recognize I could be wrong about this, but this is what I'm seeing. I'll tell you how I see it, man. I see ineffectual Republicans. I don't know what they're doing or what they're getting at. They controlled the House before and they were able to get nothing done. Okay, they got things done. I'm not trying. That's a bit hyperbolic. But now that the Democrats are in, I see a lot of wishy-washy Republicans in leadership who could be doing more. And I see a president who I'm not a particular fan of. But you know what? Like I stated earlier, I'm an adult. And so I sit back and say, listen, man, I lived through Bush. I get it. What needs to happen now is you need to rally the troops and go vote. Not try and threaten the system and remove a president because you don't like him. Maybe they don't really want to remove him, though. Because here we can see all of this news about bad press. But check this out. In a story from Politico, the impeachment calculus Democrats don't want to talk about. It's not something Dems readily discuss, but politics permeate the House proceedings, and the Senate trial could upend the presidential primary in 2020. That's right. Check it out. There are others. They say there are others who aren't so sure. This individual, Schatz, is mentioning that it sounds like Alexander Hamilton was talking about Trump specifically in talking about the need for impeachment. They say there are those who aren't so sure, particularly when it comes to the political risk of conducting an impeachment process in the middle of the Democratic presidential primaries. At the center of the Ukraine scandal is a conspiracy theory about the party's frontrunner that, while repeatedly debunked, full stop, no it hasn't, will inevitably gain more attention over the next 3 months. The House, most everyone assumes, will vote to impeach Trump. Then the Senate trial will force 6 other candidates, Bernie, Warren, Klobuchar, Harris, Booker, and Bennett, off the campaign trail just weeks before Iowans gather for their caucuses. And at the end of it all, the most likely outcome is that Trump will be acquitted and claim a broad exoneration for anything he's been accused of. Why do this? Listen. When I talk about the fabric of our government, of our country, I'm talking about the Democratic primaries as well. Why are you pulling these presidential candidates, many of the frontrunners, for instance, why are you pulling them off the campaign trail where they need to talk about ideas and talk about why people should vote for them? The reason they want bad press, the reason they're doing impeachment, and the reason they're doing this is because we have seen in other polls that when moderate voters learn about the far left policies of, say, Bernie or Warren, they are less likely to support the Democrats. So get them off the trail where they can't speak, and then hope people just vote against the president based on the negative press you've generated. That is not a democratic process. That is not how our country is supposed to work. That is the most nefarious and dirty political plan I've ever seen. But I'll tell you, look, it's my opinion. And perhaps it is nothing but the noble Adam Schiff who really does believe he's doing the right thing. Or it's a political ploy. I do not believe that there is a such thing as, for the most part, noble politicians who always do and say and do the right things. I think most people, even the politicians I kind of like, are going to play politics and are going to have some underhanded tactics. That's just the way the game is played. And it's typically why I don't like these politicians, typically why I don't like politics. But check this out. They say this. Schatz thinks it's worth it. He recalled the Friday last September when Trump's Ukraine machinations first became clear. And even the most reluctant Democrats suddenly and enthusiastically embrace impeachment. A bunch of members of the House and Senate independently came to the same conclusion, which is that this is what impeachment is for, except two Democrats defected. And according to the Republicans, if you want to take them at their word, they say this. McDaniel reports that opposition to the hearings among Democrats is up 6 points. Could it be that there are still some sane members left in the Democratic Party who see this spectacle for what it is? It's possible, yes. Let's get back to the Politico story. A bunch of members said independently this is what it's for. They were not getting a polling briefing, and they did not have time to call their kitchen cabinet back home. This was a matter of principle, that if impeachment was not to be used in this instance, it was rendered useless forever. And the moment we disregarded the politics started to work better for us. What's interesting, however, is that the story mentions that in a Senate trial, you can't ask questions. The Democrats who are running for office are not going to be able to stand up, grandstand, make viral moments like they normally do, like the House Democrats might do in this hearing. What's going to happen is they will submit their questions in writing, and I believe they say it's John Roberts. Let's make sure it's John Roberts, who, there it is. Okay, make sure we have it. They say, senators, including the 6 presidential candidates, don't speak during the trial. And if they want to ask questions, they need to write it down and pass it to Chief Justice John Roberts, all of which was news to numerous aides I spoke with this week on multiple campaigns. The Biden campaign, which includes several people who are working in the Senate or White House in 1999, seem to know this history better than others. And apparently, they're happy about it. Biden's people know this will jam up Bernie, it'll jam up Warren and the other contenders, and with Biden being the front runner, it's going to allow him to maintain his position for a longer period of time. But let's do this. Let's talk about the merit of impeachment, because I think I've told you the main point about how I think they're attacking these institutions. They're manipulating the rules of impeachment for political gains. Check this out. Steve Scalise, he's a Republican as well, so take it with a grain of salt. I understand these people this is a biased view, but he's not wrong when he says this. Meet the star witnesses Adam Schiff called today. Neither have any firsthand knowledge. Neither spoke to Donald Trump, and one of them got his information from the New York Times. This hearing is a sham. Read the transcript, an actual firsthand account. It shows nothing impeachable. In fact, Colonel Vindman said that his view on why Trump did a quid pro quo was because of the power disparity between the U.S. and Ukraine, and that Ukraine would take it as a hint. His opinion, his speculation, his opinion that the foreign policy enacted by Trump was negative because of how he viewed a power disparity that was never explicitly claimed. Can you blame Trump if someone else makes assumptions or is going to bend the knee over a perceived power disparity that he may not notice? I don't think that makes sense. Trump simply said, I believe Zelensky said, "You've done great things for us in terms of military. Thank you very much." And Trump said, "Do us a favor, though. Could you look into this? There's some horrible things." And, he mentions Biden. And that's about it. He never said, if you want this, you get this. Now, there has been testimony that Trump wanted a public announcement of the investigation, and that may have been a quid pro quo. But apparently, I don't even know if my understanding so far, and this is all very confusing because the story keeps changing, according to the closest sources and reporting from the New York Times, the Ukrainians didn't even know there was going to be military aid held up unless they did something. So the aid wasn't held up in the long term. It was eventually released, and they didn't publicly announce an investigation. So I don't see where any, gain is had. The Ukrainians are going about their business, and so is Trump, but now they're using this to launch an investigation. Check this out. Reporter for Axios, Elena Treen, says Taylor adds new information that he received last Friday. This is one of the most interesting things to come out of the hearing today. Everyone's running around saying this is the new bombshell. Big breaking news. This is from Taylor, where he says, last Friday, a member of my staff told me of events that occurred on July 26. While Ambassador Volker and I visited the front, this member of my staff accompanied Ambassador Sondland. Sondland met with Mr. Yermak. Following that meeting, in the presence of my staff at a restaurant, Sondland called President Trump and told him of his meetings in Kiev. The member of my staff could hear Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sondland about the investigations. Ambassador Sondland told President Trump that the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Sondland what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden, which Giuliani was pressing for. At the time I gave my deposition on October 22nd, I was not aware of this information. So let's back up for a second. I want to tell you where I'm at. Bill Taylor, a man that I'm not super familiar with, is telling me that he heard from a member of his staff who overheard on a phone call and heard from an ambassador that Donald Trump wants something. Sondland's opinion then transferred to a staffer, then transferred to Taylor. This is beyond third or fourth hand information. Why should this be relevant information? Why should I weigh a game of telephone against whether or not a president should be in office? So this is the big takeaway. There's not much here as far as I can tell. Of course, they'll argue on the left. It's all there. The corruption is plain as day. And Trump was seeking to upend, the 2020 election and win against Biden. But you know what, man? Joe Biden is barely raising money. He's gaffing up and down every rally he goes to. He's forgetting which state he's in. I'd be shocked if Trump actually wanted to win in this way, if he actually needed this help. I think Trump is driven by personal reasons, but I think he's upset over the Russia collusion investigation, the attempts to smear and defame him, and so he wants to see it investigated. The question then becomes, even if Trump is wrong and believes fake news, doesn't he as the president have a right to ask a foreign country to investigate? In the transcript, he did not say aid would be withheld, and as far as I can tell right now, official sources say Ukrainians didn't even know about it. Although there has been some testimony now, things have gone back and forth, and it's pretty complicated trying to understand what's happening. But I'll leave you with one final thought. I saw this story. Piers Morgan, of all people. Democrats have put all their chips on impeaching Trump, but they've forgotten the golden rule of warfare. Never start a battle you can't win. And I saw this and I thought to myself, why would the Democrats start a battle they know they can't win? It's because they want the negative press. And I started thinking about it and I thought maybe they won't actually even impeach Trump. Or better yet, maybe Trump really did want to be impeached. This was an idea floated back a few weeks ago, a month or two ago. Questions were raised. Does Trump want to be impeached? Because he uses it to rally his base as though the deep state is coming after him. But think about it. If he does get impeached, and Republican senators are able to call forth witnesses or present evidence, that could then bring up what Joe Biden was doing. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but they're not going to convict him. So maybe then the Republican side, with more control in the Senate, could present damning information against the Democrats. Maybe that's their play. And maybe the Democrats are walking into a trap. I don't think so, though. So we'll see what happens. But you know what? I do think they might not impeach. They might just want the hearings to make sure the media is dominated with orange man bad once again. I'll tell you what. I've been watching the hearings. It's like watching paint dry. It is the same thing all over again. Second hand, third hand, fourth hand hearsay, opinions of opinions. Trump's foreign policy is bad for this country. This is what we're hearing. That we heard Trump wanted to do X and we disagreed with it. Well, that's too bad you disagree with it. You might not like the guy. He could be the worst president in the world. He could be the worst president we've ever had. But the alternative is more dangerous. Unelected intelligence officials subverting the will of the duly elected representative of the people. We've been through worse presidents, in my opinion. Or maybe not, I don't know. But all that matters is it's not the end of the world. Trump will be out if you vote him out. Or he will be out when he serves 2 terms. It is not the end of the world. But if you try to subvert the system and literally tear at the fabric of this country, it will be wielded against you next time. That's what's so scary about all of this. Even if this does nothing to Trump, what happens in 2024 when a Democrat gets elected and Republicans turn around and play the exact same game? Confidence is eroding. Republicans and Democrats have completely different views of what's happening. Adam Schiff calls the Ukraine story a conspiracy theory, even though there's documents released. Which official do you choose to trust? Republicans will choose Trump and the Republicans, obviously. Democrats will choose Schiff and the Democrats. And in the end, the next time this happens, impeachment and constitutional processes will be activated for tribal reasons to win political battles. If you can't win in the vote and you decide to use impeachment to gain power, then we are no longer a nation ruled by the people and for the people. We are a nation of people playing underhanded games, subverting the rules and trying to exploit the system for power. And that's when everything comes falling apart. We'll see what happens. It's day one. Next segment's coming up at youtube.com/TimCastNews at 6 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.